to this meeting, to this joint meeting hosted by UISG and USG concerning the good economic management of a religious institute nowadays. But first of all, I will start this meeting with a prayer. We will ask now Sister Therese to broadcast the video that we prepared for this prayer. O God, good Father, grant us the light of your Spirit. Let us understand that our ministry doesn't make us owners of any asset, but instead collaborators in your providence. Remind us that the assets are just entrusted us and that we are only their administrators, possibly faithful and wise, attentive to respect, development, and justice. Remind us that you put these assets in our hands so that we could share them. Free us from any form of selfish possession. Remind us always that the true treasure that you entrusted us is Jesus, your Son, alive and present in our midst, and that the only richness that we can make fruit is the Lord and the advent of his reign, which is he himself. Make us instruments of your love in your work so that we can assess with wisdom the assets of the earth in a continuous search for the goods of the heaven, and to contribute to develop the economy of God, which is the safety of every man and woman. Amen. So, in the economy of God, everything that is valuable is also what we share and give. Let us ask the Lord that the fruit of our work of religious men and women always be a value to be shared and multiplied in love. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Very well. So, thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for attending this meeting also online via Zoom. Today, we are really attending in a great number this meeting. Actually, we needed to close the application possibilities to this meeting because there were too many people. So we will now start immediately introducing the one who will today describe us the research that he carried out by means of some surveys that he sent to religious institutes. Many of you answered this survey, and so the work that we will listen about today is also a work which is really relevant and significant for us today. We are here today with Alessandro Pellizzari, who was born in Vicenza. He is 51. He has a family, he has 3 children, and he is also an economic counselor in many firms. He collaborates with the Congregation of Josephites of Murialdo ever since 2008 and has been working here in the Generalate House for 13 years. What is specific of him, that he is not only an economist but also a theologian. He is about to get a PhD, a joint project concerning economy and theology, and in this joint context, he wanted to develop this research, of which we are going to listen about today. I think that without further ado, we are now ready to listen to Alessandro describing us how he planned the survey and what were the results. Thank you very much. Alessandro, the floor is yours. Thank you, Father Mario. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Good morning for some of you, or good evening even to some others, because I know we are here from various time zones. Thank you so much to all of you, and I beg your pardon if I start by thanking you, but thank you for inviting me to participate. And thank you also to those who contributed to the survey and to the preparation of this meeting. I'm referring directly to UISG, Sister Pat, who is the Executive Secretary of UISG. And thank you also to USG on behalf of Father Mario and Father Emily. They made this event possible. And so thank you also to Sister Therese, who is the communication officer of UISG. Thank you to her extraordinary staff working here very effectively. It's very hard to organize such a meeting. And so thank you, everyone. Thank you to the technicians, to the interpreters who offer us a valuable service. So let's start. The good economic management of a religious institute nowadays. This is the result of a sample survey USG-UISG made by sending a survey to the treasurers, to the general treasurers of the institutes linked to USG and UISG. Now, today's agenda is the following. We will start with some demographic characteristics of the sample we analyzed, their age, the kind of institute. Then we will move to, as you can see here, to the statistic characteristics of the sample. I made a statistic analysis to understand what kind of sample do we have from a statistic point of view. We will then move to the questions themselves, which are subdivided in 3 categories, to which you, those of you who answered the question, answered. So the first group contains some considerations related to economy and value. Then we will move to some problem-solving aspirations that you refer to as priorities. Then we will move to ongoing actions that your institute has been planning or has been carrying out in the managerial sector. And then in the final part of the survey, we will talk about challenges, what makes us anxious, but not because we're not effective, but just because some of these issues are very important challenges for us. And we will also analyze the attitude with which you are facing these challenges. And in the end, in the second meeting, in the second part of this meeting, we will talk about, first in group and then together, about these reflection lines. And I will make my personal contribution by giving you some reflection lines to start a process together, and together to pinpoint 1 or 2, but just even 1 shared action shared by most of us, but also a concrete action. And this is a problem of economy. We need to be concrete. Something to be started today, not even tomorrow, but today. We shouldn't end this meeting, I hope, without having highlighted an action, a concrete idea to be shared and to be carried out. So let's start with our adventure. Now, this is a sample survey. What is the total number of consecrated people per institute? So here you consider 203 people. Well, 200 institutes which answered the survey, subdivided in this graph, which you can see here. Here, you can understand that as for the members of sisters or brothers of this institute, you can see the dimension of the institute itself. Here we have a prevalence of mid-sized institutes from 101,000 members, but also a relevant participation of those who are small, for example, with less than 100 sisters or brothers, then mid or big institutes, or even very big institutes with more than 5,000 brothers or sisters, which are, again, 7. The number of nations where the institutes that participated in the survey are present. As you can see, there is a prevalence of institutes living in up until 20 countries, but also with a relevant participation of institutes working and living in more than 20 nations, with 27 institutes that work in more than 40 nations, and even some pertaining to 100 nations. So the institutes of the sample are well widespread in the various dimension and international distribution stages, with a prevalence of those with a number of consecrated people comprised between 100 and 1,000. Typology of institutes. Here you can see there is a good spread between 57% of female institutes and 43% male institutes. What is the prevailing main activity of these institutes? Here you can see there is a strong prevalence of the education formation related sector, for example, schools. However, we also have some contemplative activities, 20%, charitable activities, 18%, and healthcare, 88%. Now, the institutes of the sample are quite balanced in terms of gender and mostly work in the education formation sectors, even though they work also in other sectors. What is the age of those who answered the survey? For 65% of people, the age of those who answered the survey is comprised between 50-59. We need to also highlight that the stage between 60 and 70 years of age has more or less 50%. We have 44 people aged more than 70, some of them even aged over 75. This is just information I'm adding now. And more than 9 general treasurers are more than 80 years of age. What is the number of the service years of the treasurer? So we can see that 63%, you can see it here, of those who answered the survey has long experience of treasury for more than 5 years, with a prevalence of those who work there for more than 7 years. And I can also tell you that from this survey, but also from the statistic analysis, it's easy to understand that there's also a percentage of those who have a degree in economy, which is more than 20%. So the general treasurers that answered to this survey are 1 out of 5 graduated in economy, and they belong to mid-sized or big institutes. 6% of them are also graduated in theology, and they all belong to big institutes. Just another last consideration, which actually also involves me, because I have been working as a treasurer for the Josephits of Murialdo, even though I am a layman. I have 3 children. From the questionnaire, you can see that there are lay general treasurers. Not many, but just 4%. Just to say that what we can see is that the collaboration between lay and religious people is really a reality. So those who answer the survey are most aged between 50 and 70, and they have a long experience in the service of general treasury. Let's now move to the statistic analysis of this survey to understand the level and the relevance of our sample. So what is the dimension of the sample we analyzed? 203 institutes participated in this questionnaire, of which 195 are part of UISG or USG. The other 8 are just religious institutes that do not belong to this organization. Statistically, a sample of 195 is sufficiently representative of the complete population of 2,119, made up of UISG and USG. This is the first datum. So 2,119 religious congregations. What is the composition of this questionnaire? For those who answered this questionnaire, you know it was quite complex in structure. There were 69 questions, of which 12 were demographic, 36 refers to the so-called Likert scale, so with gradual answers, meaning with a hierarchical order. For example, not at all, not much, enough, and very. So there is a graduality, and this is important as for the statistical analysis, because based on the answer, you can carry out an analysis, a specific analysis. 5 questions were dichotomic, either yes or no. 9 questions were categorical, were not gradual, without a hierarchical order. For example, do you agree with, and say, or have you been carrying out this action, yes or no? And there is a graduality. But then there's also, I don't know, or work in progress. So from a statistic point of view, these were the data that we analyzed. And then we also had 7 open questions. So the size of the sample make this sample survey sufficiently representative of the complete population of UISG and USG. And this is an important information, which at the beginning of this survey we wished for, but we couldn't really expect. So really, thank you for your availability. So the assessment of the questionnaire for the gradual, the Likert scale questions and the dichotomic questions, we carried out a factorial analysis for the assessment of the survey. So to assess if, from a statistical point of view, and only if the questionnaire explains and assesses effectively the object of the survey, which is the good economic management of the religious world. Now, the indicator that we use, which statistically assesses the internal trustworthiness of a survey, is the Cronbach's alpha, which needs to be higher than 0.60. In our case, the Cronbach's alpha of the whole sample, including all the questions and answers, was very good, actually. We had an alpha of 0.771. And then if we analyze the Cronbach's alphas of the 3 categories we highlighted for the whole samples, for the economic value-related considerations, we had an alpha of 0.714. Then for the aspirations and economic managerial actions, we had a 0.641. And for the managerial economic challenges, we had a 0.743. The sample is statistically trustworthy and the survey is statistically valid. Now let's move to the answers and considerations that you provided us with. Here, as a methodology, you will see, here you can see a synthesis of the question. In this case, the economic action is considered as a place of witness to the authenticity of our own Christian life. Do you agree, yes or no? And here, if you want to better understand the question, you can see it extensively here at the bottom of my screen, but I will refer to the synthesis of the question itself, which you will find extensively again at the bottom of the screen. So here you can see that in this question, do you agree that the economic action is a place for bearing witness to the authenticity of our Christian life? 91% does agree. Do you see work as a personal achievement and co-creation with God? 98% agrees. And I say to the other questions that we included, can economy really help theology? 86% of you agrees with this sentence. And this is also true in vice versa. So can theology help economy? Here, 88% of people agreed with this question. And female religious institutes are even more convinced of that. And here we marked a significant statistical difference between USG and UISG. So to summarize, the economic action is considered as a privileged place to bear witness to the authenticity of our own Christian life, where work is also a means for personal achievement and co-creation with God. Is there clarity in our congregation to distinguish between community and activities? And here you can see 44% of institutes said that yes, there is also a juridical difference between communities and work. There's not only an accounting-related difference, for example, for balances for the school or for the religious institutes. There is also a managerial difference, meaning that there is a director of the religious community, which is another person compared to the principal of the school. And for 44% of religious institutes answering the survey, there's also a juridical difference. The juridical body representing the religious communities is different from the juridical body that represents the school, for example. This juridical difference is also quite widespread if you look at the statistical analysis, equally among the various dimensions of the school. Regardless of the dimension of the institutes, this agreement is widespread. Instead, the negative answer is an answer that was provided by mid-sized and small-sized institutes. Again, this is what the sample survey analyzed. The statistical analysis highlighted an important relationship between the level of the school knowledge, so for example, degree or diplomas, and these answers that were provided. Those who hold a degree in economy are now here clearly in the 44% with a clear difference, whereas those who just hold a school diploma mostly answered no. Let's move to the 10th question. Do you acknowledge the existence of two main managerial sectors in an institute, the management of communities and the management of the activities? Here you can see that 85% of institutes acknowledges the existence of two different managerial sectors for communities and for activities. Therefore, the distinction between activities and communities is clear from an accounting and from a managerial point of view, and these are considered as two different managerial sectors. Is there a need for different skills in the management of activities and of communities? 68% does agree. However, 32% of institutes do not agree or don't agree very much. Instead, is there a need to manage in a uniform but different way activities and communities, 94% of institutes answered yes. So communities and activities based on this sample require different managerial skills, and the complexity of today's economic world imposes on us a uniform but different management. Is the private property of assets are absolute right? Now, as you can see, 73% of institutes agree private property is not an absolute right. However, there is also 26% saying, no, this is an absolute right. Should the religious management look for what kind of sustainability? Here you can see very, very clearly 87% of institutes say that they should be managed in terms of integral sustainability, meaning economic, social, relational, and environmental sustainability. Mostly those institutes that are really big, and 100% of the treasurers who hold a degree in economy and theologian do agree with this sentence. And there is no specific difference between UISG and USG. This is a widespread and widely accepted sentence. So we can say that the private property of assets is not considered as an absolute right, except for some significant parts of institutes. Religious management should look for integral sustainability. So they should aim at economic, social, relational, environmental, and economic sustainability. Let's now move to the last questions concerning the economic considerations. Do the poverty vow and the communion of goods favor a more human and fair management of activities? So here you can see 99% of institutes agree, whereas 1%, 3 people, do not really agree on this sentence. The last question of this first group: can the religious management experience more freely compared to the lay management of firms some forms of enterprise that are more human, prophetic, and ongoing? 91% of institutes answered yes. So apparently, from this sample survey, the religious world is ready now to be a prophetic voice in the economic management. And probably, and this is my personal view, we are now in the right moment, in the right kairos, for a new economic humanism in which the religious world might be a protagonist of this revolution. And if we add to this that 93% of you agrees on the fact that the way in which we manage economic heritage is one of the indicators of the quality of the Sequela Christi, and that 96% of you agrees on the fact that COVID-19 pandemics and the ongoing conflicts have been further demonstrating how much our lives are interrelated. Whereas we like it or not, we need to work in networks. Are we ready to do that? Now, this sample survey answers yes, and the era in which we are living asks us to do that very strongly. So religious management, thanks to the vow of poverty and to the communion of goods, should favor a management of activities and an experimentation of forms of enterprises that are more human and prophetic. Let's now move to the aspirations and problems that you recognize as priorities. Is it a priority for us to create an institutional place for ongoing for ongoing analysis among the general treasurers, 96% of institutes agreed on the sentence. And this makes it very clear for the treasurers a clear need to talk together officially, even at an intercongregational level. And this is particularly true for the statistical analysis of big and very big institutes. And 100% of you treasurers agree on this sentence. And we're talking about institutes with more than 5,000 members. Is it a priority, the other question, to manage the activities in co-responsibility with the lay people that are charismatically involved in our work? 97% of you agreed, and even 99% of the treasurers answered yes. So here you can see that the true priorities that we recognize creating an institutional place for debate and managing the activities in co-responsibility with lay people proved the most important and urgent among the 8 proposals that we included in the questionnaire. So we can say that it is a priority for us to create an institutional place of ongoing debate among general treasurer, and also to manage activities in co-responsibility with skilled and charismatically involved lay people. And there are also here other aspirations to be proposed apart from what was proposed in the survey itself. 24 treasurers answered in this open question with some other aspirations. 11 of them highlighted the importance of strengthening economic formation of religious and lay people involved in the management of activities. 6 of them reiterated the importance of a debate between general treasurers and also the strengthening of the joint collaboration among institutes. So among the other priority aspirations expressed by the institutes, we can repeatedly find the need to strengthen the debate between general treasurers, the collaboration among institutes, and economic formation. Let's now move to economic and managerial ongoing actions in your institutes. Is there a clear subdivision in your congregation between the management of activities and the management of religious communities? Now, you can see that 78% of institutes answered yes, we have this subdivision ongoing. The other question concerning actions read, is there a concrete involvement pertaining to charism and formation for lay people in top positions? Here we have 81% of institutes saying, yes, we have this kind of involvement. So most of religious institutes has been subdividing the management of activities from the religious communities management, strengthening the involvement and formation of lay people in top positions. Let's now move to the last part of the questions in this survey. So challenges and attitudes for economy and management. Are you worried about the increasing difficulties in the management of activities on the part of religious people? Now, 74% of institutes answered yes, we are worried. And this is a worry that does not vary between USG and UISG. If we were just to focus on the answers provided by UISG and USG, we could see this distinction, a very subtle one. And this answer does not change even as far as the dimensions of the institutes. Both big and small institutes are all worried. Are you worried for the shift from an economic, managerial, individual approach for a treasurer or to a collegial approach with a treasurer and a staff of people also composed of lay people, 56% is not much or not at all worried. This shift is not worrying. So the concern for the management of activities is relevant due to the decrease in the number of religious people and to the increase on the managerial complexity, whereas the shift from an individual to a collegial managerial approach is not very worrying. Now, you can see the other challenges. A good management does carry out this mission considering the economic balance. 74% of these institutes consider it the best definition of good management. What is more, apart from the mission itself, it's also necessary to take care of economic balances. Moreover, another question was, are there reorganizational processes in your institutes that have been carried out? And 59% answered yes, we do have reorganizational process ongoing or about to start. Now, we can see that a good management carries out its mission taking into consideration economic balances. More than half of institutes answering the survey started reorganization processes at least at the general governance level between 2021 and 2022. Very well. So now we have gone through the whole survey. We just had a taste of it. And now we will have a very short but also well-deserved technical break for 5 minutes to rearrange our ideas. And what will we do after? We will discover it at when we will now have 5 minutes of break, during which we invite you both online via Zoom and here in presence to pinpoint in your working group a person in charge who will work as a moderator in the group discussion which will follow, but who will also take notes of your proposals, some of which will be read, some others will be put here on the table, or you might also write these aspirations on a Google form that we'll send you so that we can collect them. So we will be here back at 14:45 Rome time zone. After you will have pinpointed the person in charge in your group, and we will start again with the proposals provided by Alessandro Pellizzari, of which we will discuss in the groups, and we will also collect some aspirations and ideas and proposals. Thank you. See you in 5 minutes. Very well. So thank you, everyone, for being here with us. Now we will start the most interesting and concrete part of this meeting. Alessandro Pellizzari will now briefly explain to us some possible working rules and some reflections. And then in our groups, we will further analyze these topics, and in the end, we will make some proposals so that our congregations and religious institutes may find some new forms of cooperation or program implementation, perhaps even by networking and having a deeper sharing and understanding. So I will now leave the floor to Alessandro Pellizzari. He will give us these reflections. A slide will be here with the main question on which to reflect, and then we will work in groups to then come back to plenary. So Alessandro, the floor is yours. So 10 minutes from now, we can now say safely that we will now move to a concrete analysis, but with very strong basis. We have a statistically valid survey that was really relevant for us. So in order to summarize synthetically what we analyzed, we will obtain a sort of a representative picture of the USG-UISG world, which the survey provided us with. The next step, we said, is going to be interpreting together this analysis to then develop one or two economic, managerial sentences or considerations that are important for us. We will now be faced with a double way. We will be either able to be indifferent or ready to start these new processes. Now, most certainly, this objective, when I was preparing for this meeting, is really challenging, fairly impossible for a 2 hours meeting. However, I also think that the first Christians were defined by some people as those who are made stupid by Christ. So we will probably not be the first being made crazy by Jesus. So let us summarize the results of this sample survey. The survey collects the answers of religious institutes that are widespread as for dimension, international presence, and gender. Most of the institutes and treasurers have high experience in general treasury. Statistically speaking, the sample is sufficiently representative of the complete population of UISG and USG, and the questionnaire itself is trustworthy. As for considerations, we saw that the economic action is a privileged place for a Christian witness. This is what the survey tells us. Work is also a way for personal achievement and for co-creation with God. Communities and activities are two different managerial sectors. They require different managerial skills. And the economic complexity of our world imposes a uniform but distinct management for both. To conclude, the good management of religious institutes should aim at integral sustainability, meaning economic, social, relational, environmental sustainability, favoring a management of activities and an experimentation of new forms of enterprise that are more human and prophetic. To conclude, we understand that, first of all, it's a priority to manage activities in collaboration with lay people, being trained and economically involved and charismatically involved. Secondly, to strengthen the economic formation of religious and lay people, as well as interdisciplinarity. We understood also the relationship between economy and theology, as well as anthropology, and so on and so forth. Third aspiration, creating an institutional place for ongoing and operational debate among general treasurer that goes beyond cultural differences and national laws. So this debate should be taking place at the general level. A decision is taken, and at this level, decisions should relate to Italy and India, regardless of the national laws. In other places, for example, people just focus on national laws. What we understand from this survey is the need for a place that moves beyond cultural differences and national laws. To conclude, it's also important to strengthen collaboration and economic intercongregational actions. Ongoing actions, as for ongoing actions in many congregations, there is a clear distinction between the management of communities and of activities. There is also an increase in the involvement and formation of lay people in top positions. And to conclude, as for the challenges that are considered as more concerning and most urgent, we find managing activities in a context of decrease of religious people and increase in economic managerial complexity. And secondly, managing the institute to carry out the mission, but taking into consideration economic balances. In my opinion, it's very interesting to see, and here I will come to the conclusion, that the two challenges that we can find here and that emerge in the survey are coherently, consistently in line with the actions, with the ongoing actions developed and highlighted in the survey. What is more, in my analysis, and you will see what emerges in your analysis, these two actions respond consistently to the first two aspirations that are considered as a priority: managing activities in collaboration with lay people, and we have increasing the involvement of lay people, strengthening economic formation, and distinguishing the management of communities and activities, and strengthening the economic balances. Now, promoting these ongoing actions in our congregations clearly respond to what we can define as good management. To carry out an ongoing mission, these pillars are needed above all in the peripheries of the world, thanks to the protection of economic balances that is a fruit of the collaboration between religious and lay people. Beware, however, because the two remaining aspirations, the number 3 and number 4 that you defined as a priority, open up towards economic management which moves from ad intra, meaning inside a congregation, to an intercongregational approach, so creating an institutional place for ongoing and operational debate among general treasurers, strengthening cooperation and intercongregational economic actions. This is what you say, those of you who answer this survey. So intercongregationality in economic management is very important and should be further developed from the sharing of our charism with lay people, so with an ad intra approach, towards sharing similar charisms among different congregations. And this is something that we could safely define as intercongregationality. I think there are some experimental activities going on, and probably you can tell us more. But from these two aspirations on which I focused, we can reach now an evangelical approach. We will now reach an evangelical and necessary approach towards the common mission of the Church, which is the integral human safety with a preferential options for the poor, led by our common Holy Spirit. This is what we could define as intercongregationality in a wider sense, or in a full sense. Is there any experimental activity going on in this field? We don't know. You will tell us. So this is my personal contribution, inspired by these two very strong aspirations, these two remaining aspirations, because the other aspirations are ongoing, and we will continue working on that. I identified two reflection guidelines to start shared and concrete processes for reflection to be started today. One of them I would call an intercongregational place, creating an institutional place for continuous and operational debate among general treasurer. And more concretely, how and where would you like to create such a place? Would you like to have the participation of all general treasurers, or would you like to just have a representation of them, or would you like to meet with all of them on a regular basis, strengthening the associations of general treasurers subdivided per language, or referring to those which are already ongoing, or creating, for example, the union of general treasurers, for example, in USG. So this union should be placed in the only USG, and the same should go for the union of general treasurers, women in UISG, avoiding potential dichotomies and highlighting the instrumental function of economy for the governance. You will see. And the second reflection line, I would refer to it as intercongregational actions. The second aspiration read strengthening collaboration and intercongregational economic actions. Concretely speaking, proposing our joint role in a very decisive and well-coordinated way to deal with the state, banks, investment funds, or donors by strengthening collaboration between UISG, maybe even with a coordinating and operational counselors in the economic sector, from the dicastery for the Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, or developing a cash pooling with an intercongregational approach. Well, other processes to start, I didn't include anything. This was my contribution. Now we will work together to try and be stupid and crazy due to Christ. So we will try to work together and come to new proposals. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alessandro. Now, we will now divide in groups. Those who are online will be divided in language groups on Zoom. And after our discussion for 20 minutes, more or less, you will be able to write down your proposals in the Google form that you will be sent, or on the Zoom chat. And then we will read some of your proposals. Instead, here in the room, you will just write down your proposals on the sheets of paper that we gave you. So we have 20 minutes to discuss together and try and choose or a proposal or to propose a new idea for what Alessandro developed. We will need to pinpoint the proposals that we find most interesting and what we would like to start working on immediately. Then we will meet together and work in plenary. 20 minutes? Yes, Alessandro? I just wanted to briefly add everything that you will come up with will also be included in our database. So the time for our sharing today is going to be very short. We will listen to 8 proposals for the online groups, 2 per languages, 4 proposals here in the room, so for a total of 12 proposals, and we will collect all these materials. But all your proposals will be collected in any case, and very well. Just 1 minute left. Very well. So we're now at the moment of sharing. So I would like to start with those who are here in presence so that those who are attending the meeting via Zoom will have time enough to be subdivided per language. Those who have been participating via Zoom will provide us with 8 pieces of witness. Here in the room, we will have 4 of them. Let's start with the French group. So please read us your proposal. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Please, please. So first of all, we started talking about the evolution of our institutes towards the southern countries. So there are people there who don't have the skills concerning international management. Now they have top position, for example, like me or others. So we have a strong need for formation. Our wish is that we may create a center to which all the general treasurers of international congregation may refer to be able to have exchange formation both online and in presence with simultaneous interpretation. So we started developing some ideas concerning the topics of these meetings. So for example, the juridical issues of the canon law, the way of working together with the Council for Economic Affairs, proposals of the Your Bank for Investments. Your, we remind you, is the Vatican Bank, as well as issues concerning ethical investments. These are 4 issues that we developed in our French-speaking group. Thank you very much. So we will now ask some of the Spanish groups to read out their proposals. Who would like to take the floor? Please raise your hand. Here in front of me, the sister is going to read out the question in Spanish. We can't hear. We can't hear you. Please put the microphone close to your mouth. We can't hear you. Well, for us, it would be good to have a space for debate and discussion, as well as formation for treasurers. Since we are at the service of general governments, we should also take into consideration several requests for formation for the treasurers to be able to express their concerns and hardships. Formation for lay people working with us is also crucial because lay people share the management of our institutes with us. These meetings, therefore, should be organized in presence or online and provided in several languages. And evidently, we will have a gradual process to take care. Oh, thank you. I beg your pardon. I was speaking in Portuguese. Maybe it's better if I just speak Italian so I will not make mistakes. So we will now ask the one English-speaking group to take the floor. So please, thank you. So now we will ask one of the Italian groups to take the floor and read out their proposals. Please. Good afternoon, everyone. Our group focused on discernment, distinguishing between a place for communal cooperation and intercongregational cooperation. 2 points refer to the place, to a possible place, and 2 points refer to intercongregationality. As for the possible place, there is high convergence in our group towards the creation of a place for dialogue, discernment, and debate, also because we acknowledge the importance of a common voice, a common language when dealing with some challenges. However, there was also an important stress in our group on the fact that this space should always be included in the dynamics of UISG and USG. This place should not be something parallel, something external, but rather a place for reflection concerning specifically economic challenges in synergy with the topics with which the assemblies of female and male superiors focus on. These were our points concerning the place. So we agree, to summarize, on the creation of a place for studying and communal discernment. And as for possible intercongregational actions to be taken, the question is more complex because we don't have in front of us something very concrete. And again, we feel that the insight is very good, that it should be important to develop common actions despite a certain degree of isolation in the management of our own challenges. Perhaps it could be possible to start with a small, humble, but concrete initiative, for example, a campaign or annual project, a goal that we will define as a common goal and for which apart for the objective itself, we could develop a culture of cooperation among congregations. So as for the second part of the discussion concerning actions, there is a willingness on our part to walk towards this objective. More profound discernment will be needed to this end, but perhaps we could start with something small but concrete to help us cultivate in this culture of cooperation. Thank you. Thank you. Very well. So, if possible, we could start listening to the contributions of the groups which worked on Zoom. So, in French again. Male and female treasurers who work here in Paris, or at least live in France, express, well, there were people in our groups who didn't know about this group of treasurers who work in Paris, and we could do the same. So knowledge spreading also in other countries. We could develop some knowledge campaigns also in other countries. And we could also develop a sort of common fund. Thank you. In our group, we talked about the creation of a group, a common shared group for all male and female institutes. And another question that came up in our discussion refer to organizations that should be based in Rome, or considering the geography of congregations today, where there are many communities also in Africa and many general houses are located there. Our question is, where could we start these groups? So this association should be an interlocutor with the dicastery of the institutes of apostolic life and societies of apostolic life. And from a more concrete point of view, there's another question that arose in our discussion. There are congregations that were faced with the problem of abuse. So how could we take action as treasurers to help these congregations faced with the problem of abuse? Thank you very much. So please. Yes, we will speak in Italian. So in our group, we answered this first question with enthusiasm, even though we sometimes feel a bit isolated in this sector. So we highlighted the importance of this discussion, debate in an international context. We expressed our preference not just for a local place, but for a more international approach, as superiors general may experience in UISG and USG. So this kind of meetings of treasurers may actually walk in the same way as we do for superiors general. So we thought that we could organize a plenary assembly for treasurers and then creating commissions to deepen the analysis of more specific issues, and these opportunities might be considered as formation, because again, the need of formation has been strongly highlighted. These commissions, moreover, could also deepen the analysis and study the actions which were included in the second question, and that may involve the institutions and even the state and the church itself. Because it's easy for us to realize that the greatest challenges that we face refer to dialogue. So pooling our energies, finding common initiatives is essential for us. Thank you. Thank you. Next one. Yes, Italian again. Our group agrees with what we just heard. We think that the creation of an intercongregational place for treasurers is a common wish. And we also talked about strengthening the existing associations for treasurers, but inside UISG and USG, to also have a greater relationship and link with the leadership, perhaps with hybrid solutions, probably in plenary and in groups, but even in presence and online, and sometimes also involving major superiors. We also think that UISG and USG may offer formation opportunities for treasurers, providing them with tools that may then be multiplied in the formation opportunities in institutes, as we already do in other sectors. As for possible actions to be undertaken, we thought that we could do a lot of important initiatives in the national context. However, a sector in which we could work is that of ethical investments, in which the financial issues are transnational, and so we could have both formation and actions to be undertaken together. Thank you. Next one, Spanish. Good morning. Good morning from Argentina. So in our group, we reflected upon what we have heard so far, and we acknowledge the need to integrate the new general treasurers in a group, and also to favor an exchange of requests, but also an exchange of formation opportunities. We also think that we might create an economy commission inside UISG or USG. And as for formation of treasurers, we might divide them in language groups to have formation specifically for language. We saw that in UISG, we are offered a leadership formation program, an initial formation program, formation for consecrated life. But as for economy, instead, we see that this topic is only dealt with in the formation course on canon law, but there is no specific formation opportunity for economy. Another proposal that we came up with is that this formation for lay people may serve two goals: not only to develop their vocational skills for lay people working with us in the economic sector, but also for their charismatic dimension. Moreover, we acknowledge that the intercongregational collaboration is crucial, particularly for smaller congregations. We were talking about the American continent and of our country, Argentina. There are small congregations with just few sisters and very few resources. And we can see that at UISG, however, we found an assistance and some help also to interact with CLAR, the intercongregational body for Latin America. For small congregations, the distinction is not very clear between activities and communities. For us, it is sometimes harder to make these distinctions, and this may also arise problems for the lay people. Thank you. Thank you. Please. Good morning. Our group was actually multicultural. We actually reiterated some issues. We want to find a convergence in the way we work as general treasurers in UISG and in USG. We want to have formation and accompaniment, as it has already been highlighted. Secondly, we want to reiterate the importance of the dicastery for consecrated life with everything that this cooperation may include. Sometimes it might be harder, but anyway, we can find a place to start to work with them. Moreover, there are many different realities here. There are some congregations which are best committed in investments, whereas others face more difficulties. So as for assets themselves, sometimes small congregations do not really know how to invest their assets, above all in countries which are not really in favor of the church. So understanding how to invest assets with trust, but also in an ethical way, is very important, even in the various realities and in the various age stages of the congregations. Thank you. Next group.
Yes. Yes, I can go next.
Okay.
Yes, many of the topics already mentioned were discussed in our group, and including the support of the USG and UISG as part of this initiative for the general economes. In order to get the support of leadership and the interests and awareness of these topics, we discussed the current French and English group in Rome that's focused on the work of the general economes, and thought expanding that into other languages would be important, but doing it underneath the umbrella of USG and UISG. We also talked about the different topics and maybe having subgroups or sub-meetings available, whether it be, like regional topics that may be specifically relevant for some groups and not for others. So having the global group as well as regional opportunities to discuss topics that may be most relevant in certain cases. And then also acknowledging that the provincial level of economes, would be distinct from the general level. However, it could be contributory and being able to invite or engage others at a more local level if needed. And finally, just an awareness of the need for privacy and perhaps time for people that are new to the position to become comfortable with sharing topics of the economy, which in a comfortable way, which may create some hesitancy, for new people coming in, not knowing at what level they can share that with a larger group. So perhaps working in smaller groups could be more effective to address those types of issues. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll share for one of the English groups. And just as Steve said, individuals being new in treasurer's positions, but that does not withstand that what has been shared in the group that's saying that the need for collaboration amongst or across general treasurers to help in supporting one another. And that came out quite clear in the group where I was. Others need to continue that process of support and collaboration amongst the Basi generals, and also having them work together, not separating the religious men and the priests and the religious brothers separate, but a call to working as one group together. And the other thing that was seen in our group is each and every, probably maybe we're speaking of only Italy, but looking across other countries, each and every jurisdiction has its own laws, which it will be helpful when there is a sharing of wherever the general treasurers are to help others understand best how each economy of each and every country is helped. And I was just sharing with my group of how diverse Africa is, and movement of either finances or resources across African countries is a challenge and way easier when it is coming from Europe and other nations outside. So that the call to be able to learn the international differences or the economic differences in each of every jurisdiction where the general bosses are, as we are aware, not everyone, not all will be in Italy, as some congregations have their established as individual countries. Like I would speak working in Zambia, where there are sisters just working within Zambia, or priests or brothers congregation working within that, only that jurisdiction and not outside. But it will be much helpful if this cut across and help support them too in that area of sharing of the information, and that I would say is most important. And also in retraining those who are already trained, and probably giving training for those who are new in the position. And well, speaking of myself, we're quite way new in the same position. Thank you.
So we listen to two groups, to the contributions of two groups per language, both online, and one group per language here in the room. Now we will have some minutes left to work together and to share freely our contributions. If anyone wants to add anything, please raise your hand. And if you have a question or just a short idea to propose, we can do that together, both here in the room and online. We have 5 minutes. So here in the room, I see a hand raised. So I would like to thank for this great initiative for general treasurers. I think that the identity of UISG and USG really characterized this initiative because they are the service of superiors general. However, this is also an opportunity for all of us to widen the space in our tent and open up the participation of treasurers in a shared and joint way, not only subdividing this work per language groups. So I really think that it could be good to include not only religious brothers and sisters, but also the lay people that help us to manage the assets of our congregations. We reiterated many times, and I think this might be a great opportunity for us. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I belong to English group, and in my group, we are all from the female congregation. If I'm not mistaken, two of them, what is that, has only small numbers, and then even one sister do not know about this book. So yeah, some suggestion are already mentioned by other participants, so it is okay. But for us, maybe the continuation of the treasurers meeting conduct by Vatican. This is only one book as a result of the meeting of 10 years ago. So this kind of meeting for me is kind also a formation process for the treasurers, because we know there are also some new treasurers. I think that kind of meeting is also important for them to encourage each other. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who has raised either hand who would like to share anything? So online we don't have contributions, and here in the room, as far as I can see, there is nobody contributing. Oh, no, we have a hand raised online.
This is Taposhi. I would also thank you for this initiative, and it mean a lot to me, especially to all of us. I do feel it, and this is the first time that I think that we are coming together, at least in my lifetime, and I'm serving as general treasurer. Though I served as treasurer for many years in our local level, but as a general treasurer, this is my first term. So I'm seeing and listening to one another. I'm really enlightened and inspired that I'm not alone. I'm with many others. So as a religious, I think that this is very important that we are together. And as we are talking in our small group, I also feel that it is important that our formation and continual formation, and also like as the treasurer, we have certain time that we will serve, but the experience, the learning, the inspiration that we receive from one another, it will remain, and we will share with our newer members. So I will I appreciate that if the continual formation is happened for us, so that also initiative from our perspective that we can continue to form our younger members, those who are coming or will be coming after us. And also the lay collaborators are very expertise. Their contribution I highly appreciate, but at the same time, their formation also is important, because our mission is not their mission. So we need to introduce our mission so that their contribution will be enlarged and applicable, and also appropriate for our congregation's service, because our congregation will remain for many years. It's not only for shortest of time, it's for longer time. So we do expect that this is our responsibility. What we will create today, that will bring the sustainability of our congregation's mission for many years. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We really do need to acknowledge that if it hadn't been for the initiative of Alessandro Pellizzari, who carried out this important survey, this very profound work, proposing also to share it with you, probably all the treasurers that have met today wouldn't have had this opportunity. So, and this is also a sign of the fact that we religious people need to be encouraged and stimulated by the relationships with other members of the society, lay people, and all the other sectors of our society and world. So I really think that this aspect related to collaboration among religious institutes, but also among religious institutes and the society as a whole clearly emerged. And this is crucial for us. So now, Alessandro, if you agree with me, we still have 5 minutes for the most important event of today's meeting. So to conclude our meeting of today, we will now create a summary, or at least a partial summary, because in these 5 minutes we will summarize what has been shared by you, what we read together, and then we will complete the summary integrating what we will receive in a written form, both the contributions that we received on Zoom and the contributions that you wrote down here in the presence. Then these proposals will be reanalyzed, and then we will find a way to send them to you in a way or another. Hopefully, we will have the opportunity of creating another such event. In any case, you will receive our communications concerning this data with all the proposals that were developed. So, Alessandro, what proposals do you think emerged in a very clear and common way over this meeting? Well, as you said, Father Mario, this is just a first taste of this 12 and other 3 contributions, but we will devote some time to elaborate all the contributions and comments that you sent us, to value this time that we spend together, which is really precious. And this is an extraordinary opportunity that we are living together. And this is something that we will do afterwards. And in my opinion, some very strong issues emerged. First of all, a place for debate. First of all, the issue of debate, dialogue. This was quite natural, but at least we expressed this need. We need to work together, but where? And I would like to say that almost everyone expressed UISG and USG as an ideal place for dialogue together with the dicastery, taking into consideration a stronger relationship with the dicastery itself, and echoing one of the last contributions, taking into account this booklet published by the dicastery. And I would like to also add other books that were published by the dicasteries. These texts are really extraordinary and important inputs. So it's important to nourish the relationship with the dicastery, but above all with UISG and USG. So this is going to be our place. And the initiative we just had today is a clear example of that. Together with lay people, we want to have a lay presence. What about the way to promote these initiatives? what superiors general in UISG and USG use as a strategy, so plenary assembly and commissions at the provincial level, is a strategy that also emerged here, translated in the approach of general treasurers with a meeting at least once per year to gather all together in a plenary, and over the year the commissions of treasurers and the commission of superiors should be also in contact. Moreover, there are also some areas of interventions already developed. So UISG and USG are the place to have this kind of initiatives with the supervision of the dicastery. In a similar way in which the superiors general work, we as treasurers should work together to do what? For example, to focus on investments. Probably because some small congregations are not really aware of how to make ethical financial investments. And it's also important to focus on the ethical and financial aspects of investments. So this aspect is something on which UISG and USG could work to then circulate some guidelines to help everyone in this sector. It would be also important to create a project, a common project, in which the value is not really in the project, but in the cultivating a culture of communality without any distinction between female and male institutions. This is very important. Another interesting element is the general dialogue, and I think that those who spoke about this aspect refer to the exchange of national experiences. We should also, in this way, have some effects and impacts on the national and provincial laws. So at the general level, we could say someone had this kind of problem in a country, and so we want to have an exchange at the general level to help the provincial and local level. Eventually, the sharing of human resources is another aspect that emerged, also very interesting. The concluding words here. All the participants will receive my presentation. We will send it to you between today and tomorrow. And as Father Mario said, we will work to elaborate the great human capital that you developed today to reach just probably one action in which we will say we all share a common goal and we want to achieve it. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alessandro Pellizzari, for this initiative that really provided us with new energies, new ideas, probably shook some of our certainties. And as a secretary of USG, I think I can echo the USG idea. We, as unions of male and female superior general, feel directly involved in this meeting. Your voices, your aspirations are very clear. That you want something to be born from today and could be welcomed in UISG, USG. So we will need to talk about it in the future. We will update you concerning these topics, and I think we might in the future have another meeting, same as we had today, to start a concrete cooperation together. And in any case, we will nevertheless take into great consideration the work we did today, and we hope that Alessandro will continue working, cooperating with us, USG, UISG. And so from now on, we will work together. Thank you, Alessandro Pellizzari. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to the religious sisters here together for UISG, for example, Sister Therese, who made this event possible together with her collaborators. Thanks to the technical staff. Thank you to the interpreters who all made this very